The American dream is the central theme of countless films, novels, restaurants, and amusement parks in the United States and all over the world. The American dream is defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary as a happy way of living that is thought of by many Americans as something that can be achieved by anyone in the U.S., especially by working hard and becoming successful. This ideal is a result of a capitalist society and significantly a popular aspiration in the 1920s and post-war America. Americans currently value freedom very highly, and in the 1920s, this was no different. The Roaring Twenties was a time where personal freedoms were increased. Women, for example, experienced a large increase in freedom. What became known as the modern woman at the time was characterized by individual thinkers and short-haired women who would openly smoke and drink, known as flappers. These women became very prominent in American culture. Freedom of speech was also beginning to become a more widely accepted idea, and newspapers began to stop or reduce the censorship. Furthermore, the lack of business regulations in this era, along with a laissez-faire capitalist government, allowed for Americans to become very wealthy, thus beginning the ideals involving the American dream in the 1920s. In this industrial revolution, new innovations and industries such as aviation and Henry Ford's use of the assembly line allowed for people from poor families to become increasingly wealthy in a way that had never been before seen in America and many other countries around the world. In their newfound global relevance after World War I, the states were able to also establish overseas businesses and connections. Moreover, the American film industry was creating enormous volumes of film, adding to their global relevance. Due to an increase in jobs in American production, which was catalyzed by the Republican government that favors few business regulations, America's economy was very well off. The ideal that one did not need to come from wealth to become rich, and that they simply required hard work, intrigued others on a global scale, and thus helped to further establish the American dream. The American dream was not fueled solely by the boosting economy and increased freedom. It was also propelled by the propaganda distributed during the war and consequently caused a boost in KKK membership due to the propaganda-fueled nationalism that was present during that time. The 1920s was also a time of increased immigration coming from Southern and Eastern Europe. Furthermore, California's economy also depended on seasonal workers from Mexico. A large reason behind the economic boost in this time period was due to immigrant and migrant workers. However, despite this, it was a time of intolerance. Immigration laws allowed no immigrants from Asian countries and slowly began reducing the number of Catholic immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. At the time, the ideal American values involved white Protestants, and so the incoming number of immigrants and also African Americans migrating north led to large amounts of racism. While immigrants were responsible in part for the boosting of the American economy, they were also discriminated against out of fear their values will replace those of the predominantly white Protestant country. In relation to The Great Gatsby, a novel written by Scott F. Fitzgerald, the American ideals in the 1920s as well as the American dream can be seen directly reflected in the writing. The first instance where the American dream can be seen is in Nick's career aspirations. At the beginning of the novel, Nick moves from the Midwest to the East to join the bonds business, and therefore try for the American dream. He wished to become rich on his own by simply hard work, through the ever-growing bonds, as many people did in the 1920s. Another example of the American dream in the 1920s in the novel is the character of Jordan Baker. She is representative of the freedom Americans value so highly. Jordan is portrayed as a modern woman and follows that persona closely. She attends Gatsby's rambunctious parties, has short dark hair as most flappers did at the time, and also plays sports as she was a professional golfer. Her overall character displayed that she cared little for societal and gender roles, and also her unisex name helps to further establish this role. In addition, Gatsby's life parallels the American dream very closely. His rags to riches life story is able to demonstrate that even though he was born extremely poor, he is able to achieve unimaginable wealth. He lives on West Egg, which is the home to new money rather than old money in the East Egg. The East Coast in the 1920s specifically was a time where many people would be classified as new money thanks to the stock market in New York, where Nick also attempted to become wealthy. Gatsby's means of gaining his wealth perhaps did not take only hard work, as the American dream states, since he was a bootlegger. Despite this, however, this means is also very in line with 1920s America due to the Prohibition. In the 1920s, the American dream seemed attainable to many people, including Nick Carraway in The Great Gatsby. this is not completely the case today. As shown by Gatsby, who was able to attain the American dream, it not only took him hard work, but also criminal activity. Many people in 2020 continuously strive for it. However, as the name suggests, it is simply a dream and not necessarily reality.